We got it going. All right. So it seems like the Algebra 1 students are working with functions, and there's basically two operations to do here. Either we're plugging in, oh, that's not the right color I wanted. Let's see if I can change that. Let's do this one. All right, so it seems like we are either, oh my gosh, still, let's get the right color ink. This one, light blue. I think we got the light blue. All right, here we go. Either we are plugging in the value of x. Why is it not writing correctly? But okay, it is what it is. Or we are solving an equation. All right, so let me give you some examples of when we are plugging in the value of x and when we are going to solve an equation. So for example, here we have a function who I've decided to call g, and is using the variable x. So x is the thing that is going to be changing. In this case, x, which is the input. And then once we input this into this function, out comes out the output. So using this formula right here, we'll know what the output is. So what will be an example where we'll have to plug in the value of x? Well, we could have that the function g, and we can say what happens to this function when the input is equal to 8. Or we could also have another example. Again, our function is named g, and we have g of negative 4. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Well, g of 8 means, oh my god, this writing is so bad, so bad. Okay, g of 8 is equal to, that will be 1 half, but instead of using x, we are going to use the number 8. Oh, this is so bad. Okay, minus 3. Well, 1 half times 8, that's equal to 4, minus 3, and 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. Let's do the other example. If the input, if the input is negative 4, what turns out to be the output? Well, in this case, this function was defined as 1 half times x, but we're not using x, we're using negative 4 minus 3. Well, 1 half times negative 4, that will be negative 2 minus 3, that's equal to negative 5. So when the input is negative 4, the output is negative 5. So let's look at some examples where we need to solve the equation. What does those examples look like? Those examples will look something like this. Perhaps we want to know what the input is. What is the input? So we don't know what that is, so that's going to be x. What is the input when the output, let's say, is equal to 9? Okay, so here we're looking for what is the input when the output is equal to 9. So therefore, the instruction is 1/2, you just came out on camera. 1/2 x. Oh man, I cannot do an x with this thing. Let's use the eraser. Let's erase that because that is not nice. Let's erase that because this does not look like the letter X. Let's now go back to the pen. All right, here we go. All right, so once again, so it is telling us in this case that we need to find the input. We need to find X, which is, in this case, this is the definition of G, and that is equal to 9. So at this level right now in Algebra 1, we should be able to say what is the opposite of a -3? Well, the opposite of a -3 will be to add 3. And whatever we do on one side, we have to do it on the other side because it must be fair. And so, in this case, the -3 and the +3 cancel each other out. And we have 1/2, 1 divided by 2, 1 divided by 2, x is equal to, oh, this thing doesn't want to work with me, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. And so then, as I was saying before, how do I get x by itself? Think about it. It is 1 divided by 2. 1 divided by 2. What's the opposite of dividing? The opposite of dividing is to multiply. So let's multiply by 2. Multiply by 2. Multiplying and dividing cancels. Now we have 1x, and 12 times 2 is 24. Oh boy, this is so bad. So, what does that mean? That in order for the function to have an output of 9 means that the input must be 24. Okay? All right, so there it is. You have either plugging it in or you're solving. Look at the difference between when we need to plug something in and when you're trying to solve an equation. I hope this helps you. All right, and see you in the next video. And where is it? Right here.